Joco Community Radio.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581. 877-247-1581.
Attention all business owners and creative minds. Do you need a unique and personalized touch for your products? Look no further than Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs. We offer custom laser engraving services for a variety of products, including promotional items and corporate or personal gifts. With state-of-the-art equipment and a team of skilled designers, we can engrave intricate designs on virtually any material. Whether it's a special message, a company logo, or a custom design, Romika Laser Engraving will help you make your mark. And the best part, our prices are affordable and our turnaround time is quick.
I couldn't be happier with the work Romika Laser Engraving did for me. The engraving on my product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Hey, travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Good evening, Johnson County. Welcome to this week's episode of The Breakdown. I'm your host, Greg Cooper, and here on The Breakdown, we deep dive local politics, mainly school boards and city councils, but any and all Johnson County politics are on the table. We air most Thursdays at 5 p.m. You can visit the Joco Community Radio Facebook page to watch shows live or to see replays. Also, you can go to the www.jococommunityradio.com website. That's www.jococommunityradio.com, where Apple and Android apps are available. Tune in to get the ins and outs of Johnson County, Texas. Tonight's show is meant to educate. It's part 2 of a series meant to inform you, introduce listeners to some of the individuals who are throwing their hat into the arena and trying to make a positive impact on their community, mainly involving the property tax process. One of the hottest topics and points of frustration for many citizens of Johnson County are the ever-increasing and oppressive nature of property taxes. From the state level to the local level, there are layers and layers of redundant and confusing policies, codes, laws, etc., which make it basically a full-time job to even begin to remotely understand and digest how this process actually works. To address the elephant in the room of what exactly is the Central Appraisal District and why is it imperative that we as citizens pay closer attention to it and get involved with it, here is the definition of the Central Appraisal District. It's taken directly from the state comptroller's website. We spoke about this last episode, but we want to make everybody aware of what their job is before we dive into this topic for a second time, trying to implore these taxing entities to vote appropriately based on how the people are asking for. So the comptroller's website states that the appraisal districts are responsible for appraising property for property tax purposes for each taxing unit that imposes property taxes on property in the appraisal district. An appraisal district is established in each county and has the same boundaries as the county's boundaries. An appraisal district is a political subdivision of the state that is governed by a board of directors. Voting member taxing units. Those are mainly your city councils and your ISDs, your independent school districts. Voting member taxing units are entitled to vote on the appointment of members of the board of directors. The board of directors has required duties and authority under Texas law. Tax Code Chapter 6 contains much of the statutory authority for boards of directors. The main taxing entities, like I said before, your county, local city councils, and your local independent school districts. School districts take the largest chunk other than the county commissioner's court. These taxing entities, they need your tax revenue to operate. The county, city councils, and school districts, they nominate and elect the individuals who are intimately involved with the process of how your property value is appraised. We as residents of Johnson County have the ability to get involved, make our voices heard, and pull back the covers on the Central Appraisal District, the way it operates, and influence the process to be more transparent and more available to the average property tax owner. Tonight on the breakdown, we're going to introduce a few people. One is Mr. Craig Hundley. Mr. Hundley, as we detailed on our previous show, he needs no introduction. His Facebook group has exploded to well over 7,400 members, and it's called Texas Nonpartisan Political Group from Horse Barn Property Tax Reform. Once again, if you're looking for information on how this process works and Mr. Hundley's fight to expose the lack of transparency with property appraisals in the Central Appraisal Tax District over the last numerous years, the Facebook group is Texas Nonpartisan Political Group from Horse Barn Property Tax Reform. Yes, it's a mouthful, but you will never forget it, and his horse barn is an absolutely phenomenal place. It's done more to raise awareness of the complex world of local property taxes than any other entity I know of. The group has reach across the state. It has inspired and helped educate many residents, me included. It has sparked an interest that has mainly been undercover for many years with how this process worked. The other, we're going to introduce and speak about 4 nominees. 2 of them are here with us, and they're asking everybody to get involved and attempt to become part of this process. They're working with city councils and school districts to secure their votes and get elected to the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors here in Johnson County. More important than working with those taxing entities, for the first time, and they deserve credit for this, they're bringing the process to us, the people, and trying to pull it back and have influence with the taxing entities on how they're elected. and they need our help. Before we introduce Mr. Hundley and the nominees and our guests, I'm going to begin this conversation with what I came across while researching this topic. It's the best singular definition of exactly what the Central Appraisal District does and to who they're accountable to. The source is Texapedia, considered the encyclopedia of Texas civics, and they define the Central Appraisal District as follows. Appraisal districts in Texas are responsible for estimating the monetary value of all real estate in each county for the purpose of assessing property tax on each property to each owner. Appraisal districts in Texas are governed by a board of directors. The member of the board of directors are nominated and elected by the taxing entities. The goal is to bring the people into this process, and the guests here tonight are going to talk about how we can help them achieve this goal. Appraisal districts work in conjunction with the local taxing entities to assess property on their behalf, not your behalf. Their behalf, including school districts, cities, and counties. Again, not our behalf. Without further ado, I have the distinct pleasure of discussing the four nominees, our other guest, and Mr. Hundley. Miss Amy Lingo, she's not here with us tonight, and Mr. John Wood are not here with us tonight. They both have been secured as nominees for the Central Appraisal District. Mr. Paul Jones and Mr. Duaine Goulding both are here tonight, and they both need more votes, and we're asking for your help, and we're going to tell you who to contact to achieve that goal. Mr. Craig Hundley is here tonight, and we also have an independent school district school board trustee from the city of Godley, Miss Kayla Lain, who is trying hard to work with her school board and with her school administration to secure the number of votes that Godley's allotted for these individuals. So we're in the middle of this fight, and let's start with Mr. Hundley. Mr. Hundley, you're in the middle of this now. Some people have cast their votes. Some haven't cast their votes. Tell us how it's going so far, how you've been received, and how and do you think you're going to get over this hurdle for these four nominees?
Yes, I do. In the beginning, my hope was just to get one. And that was secured with Commissioner's Court, Johnson County Commissioner's Court. They have really backed us. And throughout the day, we had another miracle happen. That was Joshua ISD. And then City of Burleson. And we got our second person, Mr. John Wood, secured. Mr. Goulding, we're at about 400 votes. Mr. Jones at about 57. There's still a lot of votes left out there right now, but we've got to get Mr. Goulding up to 834 votes. City of Burleson Burleson ISD is the next big one with, I believe, 880 votes. That one school district could put Mr. Goulding over the top and give Mr. Jones a really big start.
So props to the Johnson County Commissioner's Court. They have 964 votes.
Yes.
And they allocated all votes to the candidates that the people are demanding. So props to them. Tell us how that went down.
Well, it's just a lot of work, making friends, educating people. We've got a great county judge who believes in the people. We have great commissioners. One is sitting here right beside us.
Introduce our guest sitting here tonight.
Mr. Rick Bailey, Commissioner of Precinct 1. He's always stood up for the people.
Mr. Bailey, thank you for being here and considering getting involved in this. This is not how normal business has been done for years. And thanks for being open to a little bit of change and getting involved. It speaks volumes for how you conduct business. And thank you for that.
And glad for the progress that we've seen, and hope that we'll continue this, and if not this year, next year.
So awesome. So Mr. Goulding and Mr. Jones, Mr. Goulding, tell us how you're halfway there, close to it. How's it been for you so far in this?
Well, it's been an interesting process. A lot of surprises along the way, and no surprise at that, I guess. I'm in this because people don't know what goes on at the CAD. The CAD is a mystery. And if I'm on the board, I want to help open that up so that people understand what goes on. I don't know anybody that resents paying taxes. They want streets and roads and fire and police, and they want all that. They need it. What they resent is a process that is done in the back room that gives them a tax appraisal, and they don't understand how that works. You can't trust a process that you don't understand or don't know. So we've got to get that out, open it up, and everybody understands what the process is. And that way the CAD will serve the taxing entities, which they do now, and the citizens equally, so that both sides know what's going on. And as a taxpayer myself, I want to know what's going on. I've learned a lot in the past month going through this process about how things work, as well as some previous experiences with CADs, not only in Johnson County, but elsewhere. I think it's important to open it up, to create some balance, and to offer the taxpayers the opportunity to be informed if they so choose.
And that's one of the biggest things, is it's been really difficult to get any information from the CAD and how the process works. And I don't think anybody's really necessarily accusing them of doing anything illegal or anything wrong, but they are definitely making it difficult for the average taxpayer to understand how this works. Is it fair to say that, Mr. Hundley?
Yeah, well, no one knows. That's the problem. Nobody knows what's going on, not even our elected.
It's troubling. I've lived in different states, and this is by far the most complicated system that I've ever tried to understand. And I have the time to do it. I'm retired military. I've been blessed with time.
Yes.
And I have the time to try to understand it. And it's difficult, and it's layers and layers of.
It was designed that way on purpose.
So Mr. Jones, how has things been going as you've been going out to different city councils, out to different school districts, and trying to talk to the taxing entities who are able to cast their votes? You've started to get some votes now too. You still have a ways to go. How have you been received, and what have you learned during this process, sir?
Well, I think we've all been received pretty well. Like Mr. Goulding said, there's been lots of surprises along the way. I did get the city of Joshua's votes, but I did not get the city of Joshua ISD votes, which was kind of disappointing. But one of our candidates did get those votes, so it's all good. I think we have a long ways to go here. We do have 2 of our candidates seated. We've got 2 more to go. So that's the goal, is to get the next 2.
And it's good to remember that for any taxing entities. Miss Amy Lingo and Mr. Paul Wood, they have secured their votes. So if you're considering jumping on board this freight train that's coming through, as people become aware and people learn more about this process, and I think it's 4.5 years now. Is that correct, Mr. Hundley? That you've been
4.5. August 2019.
August
2019.
So August 2019, you began this process to raise awareness on how, and it's taken this long to even get any of the taxing entities to remotely consider allocating their votes to who the people are asking for.
Because forever they've always done it one way, and we had to make them think how, to do it another way. And they're seeing now that supporting citizens they need to support the citizens.
Absolutely. The taxing entities not asking for people's input for anything that affects something so dramatic as property taxes. And maybe it was taken for granted. Maybe it was never considered. Maybe it was just, hey, this is how we've always done it this way. Coming from the military, anytime you hear something, well, this is how we've always done it, that's a excuse my French, but a piss poor excuse for poor leadership. You should always be looking for ways to do things better, more efficient, more effectively, more transparently when you're talking about taxpayers' money. I can't personally thank you enough. I've learned so much from your group. I know astronomically number of people that have. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And our other guests, before we start deep diving the individual cities and school districts, we have Miss Kayla Lain from Godly ISD. She's going to talk a little bit. Godly ISD has their vote when, Miss Lain? The 28th?
I believe it will be the 27th.
27th.
Monday, the 27th is our next school board meeting.
So Monday, the 27th, Godly ISD will be allocating their...
We have 229 votes.
229 votes. So before we talk about this, we will have breaking news. There is troubled waters in Godly ISD, and there is some things brewing in Godly ISD that are going to be addressed very, very shortly. Godly ISD, at some point, you need to be a little more transparent about the things you're doing. And you can start with supporting the people's candidates regarding this. So, Miss Lain, you were involved with the nominating process, and they didn't nominate these candidates. They chose to go the older school way. Tell us how that went down. And in our second segment here, we'll talk about the individual cities and school districts.
So at our September school board meeting, September 25th, Godly ISD, our superintendent had a recommendation to re-nominate 4 of the 5 sitting CAD board members. I was the only trustee to vote no against his recommendation. And I said, in talking with some citizens who have been working legislatively for property tax relief, there is some legislative work that's been done for members and citizens and taxpayers to be able to nominate their own CAD board members. And since I don't see any of those names on this list, I am going to be voting no in support of the work that those citizens have been doing. Then the president, which is Matt McKittrick, asked the board if there was any further discussion. No one said a word. The vote was taken. 6 voted yes for the sitting 4 out of 5 CAD board members, which was the recommendation from our superintendent. And I was the only one that voted no. So it was 6-1. I was the only no. I think it was 2 weeks later, one of the board members, Craig Stevenson, actually emailed me asking what I was talking about. And I explained to him what was going on and who my recommendations were for those 4 CAD board members. And then I've heard nothing else from him. I even gave you his contact information.
I sent him a text message or email. I can't remember, but he never responded back.
Yeah. So like I said,
Traditionally, Godly, they have been very reliant on the superintendent and administration. I hope all school boards are not that way. I'm more familiar with Godly and Joshua than some of the others. They've been very reliant on the administration. The administration is very comfortable in their ways. And it's difficult to get them to think outside the box on some of the things.
And being a newly elected trustee, I've been elected since May. This is my first time going through this process. And it was pretty frustrating for me that we don't even have a say in who we nominate. It was, here's the superintendent's recommendation, vote yes or no. And so I didn't even have a say. So that's why before the vote was taken, I made sure to say why I'm voting no and hoping that they would listen to the taxpayers. So, I mean, at the next board meeting, I'm going to be pleading them once again for the board and the district to listen to the taxpayers, to vote accordingly at this next board meeting, because I will always remain loyal to my campaign promise, which is to listen and stand with the taxpayers
and be more transparent. That was one of your huge things. And school board members in Godly, you got 229 votes, and that could definitely be the member of one or both of these other candidates they're the people's candidates or who the community's asking for. Reach out to Commissioner's Court. Reach out to Joshua ISD. We'll talk about them a little later and how they did it. Craig, tell us about since we're talking
really
about
quick. Sorry,
no worries.
Mr. Goulding needs around 400 votes. Godly has almost 300. That would get him a long way. Just giving all of our votes to Mr. Goulding.
Yeah, and that, like, can I add one thing? Kind of
Absolutely.
touch on a point you made earlier about is the CAD doing anything wrong? We don't have any indication they are.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're not trying to make accusations.
As far as we know, they are compliant with every regulation, every state law. Everything's fine. That's not my issue. My issue is transparency. These taxpayers should have the opportunity to know how this process operates, and they should be informed enough that they know they're getting the best deal they can on their taxes. I know for a fact because I've advised some people who didn't have exemptions because they didn't know they could get the exemptions, and I've advised them to go get them. So some of the taxpayers have saved a few bucks here and there just because we sat down over a cup of coffee or whatever and chatted a little bit, and they go, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that." Well, that's a shame because the CAD should feel as obligated to the taxpayers as they are to the taxing entities.
Absolutely.
And so my mission, if I get on that board, is to open things up, educate the taxpayers that want to be educated. A lot of people don't care.
Sure.
And that's okay. But they want to know, I'm going to let them know.
So, and Mr. Jones, is it fair to say that you feel the same way, that you will make it as easy and accessible as possible, all exemptions, the process, how it works, known to the people?
Absolutely. That's our primary goal, to have balance, accountability, and transparency. And that's actually part of the statement we give to most of these ISDs and cities, is a joint statement between Mr. Goulding and myself, is to have balance, accountability, and transparency. We're committed to maintain a culture of balance whereby the CAD operates with equal concern for the taxing entities and taxpayers. We are all taxpayers, and as elected representatives, you understand the need for this balance. We also all know that the CAD is mandated by state law to operate within defined laws and regulations. The state comptroller is the state agency who stands above the CAD throughout the state. As the governing body for Johnson County CAD, we will discharge our duty to ensure that the CAD operates in compliance with all state laws and regulations, accountability being key to maintaining confidence. Today, the operations of the CAD are not well understood, as Mr. Goulding said. Everyone should have the opportunity to understand how appraisals are determined so that they have more confidence in the appraisal and in the process. To that end, we will establish an outreach program designed to bring about this transparency. As a board of directors, we are committed to this mission and respectively solicit y'all's support out there in the public, as well as these remaining cities and ISDs.
And that's awesome. And I wish you both the best of luck. We, once again, 2 have already secured the votes. And just to bring up, we have Kayla and I have a personal friend. He recently purchased a piece of property in Johnson County. He closed escrow at the end of July, and he missed the ability to appeal. He just received his property tax bill, and it's 30% higher than his purchase price.
Yes.
30% higher than this purchase price.
Has he gotten up off the floor yet?
No, no. And he's a single dad, and he's trying to figure this out. And he wanted me to bring this up tonight. And
it's tough. It's absolutely ridiculous. Many people out there are actually forced out of their homes and off their properties because they simply can't afford the taxes anymore, the property taxes. That is wrong, and that's got to stop.
Yeah, and 30% from where he purchased the home. Kayla, you've talked to him too. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
And do you know anything more about that? And is it?
No, honestly, because he's outside of the window to protest, I wasn't really sure if there's anything that can be done, but I told him I would be contacting the Central Appraisal District and just finding out if there's anything he can do. But I will also say this is a state problem as well with property taxes. And there is, everyone needs to be calling their representatives right now because HB1, the school choice voucher bill, will affect your property taxes. There is a lot of big spending going on down in Austin, and we need to tell them to stop spending, stop the bills, repeal some bills.
Mhm.
There's too much spending going on.
And that's another good thing to look at. There's a lot of legislation that's coming that's talking about some property tax relief, and there has to be transparency in the appraisal district. And these candidates are giving us their word that they will open these doors up and make this as transparent as possible. It's really easy to manipulate stuff on one side to counterbalance other things that happen. And no, here again, nobody's saying there's anything being done wrong, but the more transparent that this is, the easier it is. Mr. Jones.
Yes. Kayla mentioned a little while ago that the godly administrator put out his recommendations for the board, right? We found it interesting that the current board of directors, did the same thing with the ISDs and cities. They put out their list of recommendations, who are all, of course, incumbents.
And that's the fox leading the hen house.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
bottom line, it 100% is. The elected officials, we elected school board members and city council members to make these decisions. And a school administrator who should not be driving that train. They should not be driving that train. And we're getting ready to go to break here. But Craig, let's close on. Have you seen a difference reception from the city councils to the school districts?
Yes.
So can you touch on that real briefly before we go to break here? And we'll
Well,
follow it up after the break with it.
From 4 years ago, I got a lot of doors shut in my face. Today, everybody's doors are open. City of Cleveland, City of Burleson, Joshua ISD. I can't say enough for them.
Props to them. Props to them. So, hey, we're here with the breakdown with Greg Cooper. We got Craig Hundley. We got Duaine Goulding. We got Paul Jones and Kayla Lain. And Rick Bailey is a special guest sitting here watching on. We'll be back after the break.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Welcome back to the breakdown here on JoCo Community Radio. We're here with members of your community, members of Johnson County that want to create a more transparent central appraisal district process and how property taxes are appraised. Before we get into our second segment, I'd like to remind everybody that JoCo Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. www.tuneinjoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out our lineup and more at www.jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844.TexHail. That's 844-839-4245. And be sure to address your arms and more at the tiffy.com. And as we get colder weather and old man winter starts creeping in, you'll need some of those goods at the tiffy.com. So we're here with Amy Lingo and Paul Wood aren't here tonight. Or John Wood aren't here tonight. We got Paul Jones, Duaine Goulding, Mr. Craig Hundley, Rick Bailey, and Miss Kayla Lain. And we're here talking about how to make this property tax system more transparent and how to open it up and eliminate a lot of the confusion and frustration with skyrocketing appraisals year after year and people reaching more into their money, having to spend more money on it and not understanding why and what goes into that. Once again, I want to remind everybody that next week we're going to have some damning news on Godly ISD and some of the issues that they're doing with some student safety. And we want everybody to remember to watch for that. That's coming. Miss Kayla Lain and some others are intimately involved with that, and it's going to be brutal. So we want everybody to pay attention to that in the future. But today we're talking about property tax appraisals. We're here with Craig Hundley and his group. I'm gonna highlight Joshua ISD.
Yes.
I want to highlight Joshua ISD. And I'm going to let you take that, Craig.
Okay.
Joshua ISD has, they've had some problems. I think that they have some solid academics. I think that they've managed a lot of their money well historically. They have had some transparency issues, but it was a breath of fresh air. Having watched some ISDs that become embattled and watching them double and triple down on the ways that they've done things, I was overwhelmingly excited watching that school board vote for you guys, considering how school boards are leaning. And school boards out there, what Joshua ISD did was awesome. And Craig, tell us how that went down.
Well, first of all, as you know, and Kayla, I helped fight to stop the school bond. And I did do that. And they know that I did that. But while these battles were going on with this group, and I noticed this one lady, and I would stand up for her. Her name was Nene Wilson. She's a school board member. One day out of the blue, she comes into my business and wanted to meet me. And we sat and visited and said, it's okay to disagree, but always be kind to each other. And we were. And we communicated back and forth, and I had to explain my fight, which has nothing to do with the school bond. And of course, as she leaves my business, I asked her, would you like a vote no sign to go with you? And of course, she broke up. But then I have to go talk to them that night, and I just laid it out to them, that I'm fighting for all of them. This has nothing to do with bonds. This keep a roof over your head. Keep your students' parents with a roof over their heads. That's what I'm doing. And I left with you.
Yes, sir.
And I remember you telling me, Craig, they done made up their minds. You're not going to get a vote.
I was worried that they didn't discuss it in their board work session. I was like, man, they didn't even discuss this. I was worried that their mind, and I was wrong.
Amen.
Props to Joshua ISD.
And you and I head to Burleson. And I'm sitting, and Nene sends me a text, said, John Woods. And I go, what? And I text her back. She said, he's got all of our votes. Well, I like to fell out of my chair.
Me too.
Yeah. So kudos to Nene Wilson and Joshua.
I agree. I follow cities and school districts, and cities are a little easier to come around,
Yes.
especially if they kind of get spanked a little bit. But school districts, they double and triple down, and they love to hide on their team of 8 executive session stuff.
Mhm.
And I was overwhelmingly surprised. Thank you, Joshua ISD. You deserve credit for doing this. Absolutely.
I think Joshua was a little shaken by 2 things. One was they lost the bond again. And so that's a pretty good understanding of where the people are right now. They've had it. They've had it with taxes over and over again, replacing one bond with another. I think they were shaken by that they lost that bond election. And I think they were a little bit shaken by the commissioner's court giving us their votes as well.
Again,
Yes.
props to them, because they led the way with this. Is it fair to say that?
Yes.
They led the way with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Commissioner's Court led the way.
And they have the most votes.
Yes.
They're the biggest dog in the yard. And
Yes.
and props to them. How was your guys' communication with them? How did you pave the way for that and get them to listen and be open to it?
You got to remember our county judge 4 years ago when I went to Cleburne, he was a councilman, and there were 2 other councilmen that were on there. And all I remember was he had supported me as well as these 2 other councilmen, and I never forgot it. But Rick and I had talked for a long time behind the scenes. And Rick would say, Hundley, we got to get this guy to run for county judge. We're getting old, and it's going to take a guy like him to move it forward.
He's sharp.
He's sharp as a tack, and he's very witty. And well, he filed. Rick and I worked all I could to get him in office. And guess what? He remembers us.
And that's good. And
Rick
more
Bailey.
importantly, he cares about what the people want.
He cares about what the people wants.
So I went to I went to one of their hearings when they were discussing it, and I was impressed. I didn't get to go to the one where they actually allocated their votes. But props to them for leading the way. And again, props to Joshua Nene Wilson. I'm assuming that Mr. Hickerson, their superintendent, supported it, and Ronnie Galbraith, Myra Pruitt, the Lees, Hunter Bird.
They had to.
Yeah, props to you guys. Thank you. School districts, you guys have a history of being a little bit kind of standoffish to change and a little bit nervous with that. Godly, Mansfield's coming up, Burleson ISD's coming up. Let's talk about these ISDs that haven't voted yet. How are those going?
I don't know at the moment, but I'm talking to people and just trying to get a feel on things. But Burleson, we have sent them all their biographies. We sent the biographies out to everyone. We're the only folks that have to campaign. Nobody sitting on that CAD board ever has to campaign. They never have to do nothing. They just walk in.
They're handpicked.
And
same thing with the CAD board members up to this point.
Yeah. And here again, I mean, I guess in a perfect world, the people that are making decisions on our property tax would be directly elected by the people. This delineating line, and I'm not saying this is going on, but inflating property appraisals gives a little bit of shade to when people pay more to the taxing entities. They can kind of say, well, that's because of the reason you're paying more is because of this. And there's a lot more that goes into that with budgets.
A lot more.
There is. But there's a lot of other factors that come into play with these inflated property appraisals, with especially with the way property taxes are. I don't like how a lot of the taxing entities play on the senior citizens. Oh, your taxes are frozen. This is generational wealth being potentially ruined and stuff. So there's a lot that goes into this. Hopefully other ISDs will follow in the same road that Joshua did.
One thing people don't understand about when they say things like, well, your taxes are frozen. Well, your tax rate might be frozen, but when your valuations keep going up and up and up on your property, so do your taxes.
Yeah.
Can I comment?
Absolutely.
Earlier, you talked about somebody that bought a property and the CAD appraisal was over what they paid for it.
30%.
I had the same experience happen.
Tell us about that.
This was probably 7-8 years ago. I started buying some rental properties. I bought a rental property, and we would go in and clean it up, repaint, spiff it up before we would put it on the market. In the meantime, I got appraisal from the CAD that was 15% higher than I paid for the property. So I called the appraiser and said, wait a minute, here's the transaction. And we discussed it, market value. We talked about that. And he said, well, you didn't pay market value. You just got a really good deal. And I said, well, but willing buyer, willing seller, that's the value of the property. He said, no, it isn't. Now, I didn't protest that. You know why I didn't protest it?
Probably didn't know you could.
Oh, I knew I could.
Okay. What happened?
It's a rental property.
Oh, okay.
So who paid the increased property tax?
The renter.
The renter, not me. Yeah. I just simply built that into the cost structure for it. And every business is that way. And our taxpayers need to understand that.
It's pass through.
Every time you go buy a soda, a hamburger, anything, that business has built the property tax into their cost structure. So effectively, they pass it through,
including rental properties.
That's right. The taxpayers pay businesses property tax, and that's one of the insidious aspects of property tax. You're paying a tax you don't even realize you're paying every time you purchase something.
But the poor and lower income people, it's bad.
Well, and yeah, if you're listening and you don't happen to own property, you're renting, or you just graduated college and you haven't purchased a house yet, or you're in between homes waiting for one to be built and renting. This stuff affects you. There's second and third order effects to the property owner having to pay higher property taxes, or you may decide to buy a property at some point, and as these out of control appraisals are going up, you may be priced out of a home at some point. There's interest rates going up, inflation's on the rise. So there's so many factors that go into this that everybody should be very concerned with, accurate, on time, transparent, easily understandable property appraisals that are fair.
That is quickly where it's going right now, is especially for new homeowners, is you're being priced right out of the market. And a big part of that is because of taxes, property taxes.
I had a tenant one time that I got my tax bill and the property tax went up $100 a month. So I told the tenant, I'm going to raise your rent $100 a month just to cover the taxes. I'm not going to make any more money than I've been making. The tenant's reaction was, I can't afford that. So he gave me notice. He moved out. We cleaned the place up and released it. The problem was it forced him out.
Yep.
Yes.
And it was nothing except the appraisal.
Yeah, it's a problem. I know, and people think that these appraisals and with combined with inflation and interest rates and stuff aren't causing a problem. Kayla, you could talk on this. In the 2022 bond, they were pushing 8,000 future students within 10 years, over 8,000 in Godly ISD. Now they're under 5,000 in 10 years for moderate growth. Is it fair to say that? So you're beginning to see these numbers in growth begin to drop, and a lot of that's because of definitely appraisals are taxing people out of homes. Is it fair to say that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just look at the new elementary school, Pleasant View. When that school was built, it was supposed to be surrounded by homes, and it was fully done, and there was no homes around it. And the reason is because of inflation and the economy and all of these taxing entities and these central appraisal districts. They're not factoring in this down economy.
Yeah.
And they need to take notice.
I remember, I think it was September 22, Superintendent Godly ISD asking the developer, where's our homes that we were promised? Because he needs that tax revenue he's already operating a huge deficit budget. So yeah. So it's crazy. So we're going to go down a couple of towns here, Craig. So, hey, Joshua ISD, props to you. Godly ISD, hopefully you're on notice. Kayla's pushing from the inside. Hopefully some of these candidates or Craig or somebody can get out there and speak to this board when they have their hearing. Let's talk about Alvarado. Have you had any traction with Alvarado ISD? They got 334 votes. Anything with Alvarado?
They've already voted.
How did that go?
They divided their votes. I got 20% of them, basically.
Okay. Did your candidates get the rest of the votes, or did they do half and half?
It was divided equally between the rest.
Duaine was the only one of our people that got votes. All the rest of them went to the incumbents.
So I guess it's better to be a teeny bit right, but yeah.
No,
well, it might
every little bit helps.
Yeah, it might have something to do with the fact that I have two sons that live in Alvarado and 5 grandkids that have been in the school system and graduated are still there. And so the name's recognizable to them.
Okay.
Name recognition probably got me those votes.
We'll throw them 1/5 of a bone since we got 1/5 of a bone.
We'll give them 1/5 of a bone. All right. That's all right. City of Burleson, Mayor
Phenomenal.
Fletcher. I had him on a couple weeks ago. Awesome mayor, really impressed. Tell me about how that went down. He was very supportive.
It was unbelievable. And his council was unbelievable. They didn't even hardly discuss. They just all made a motion and they supported us.
And they seemed really confident and just really comfortable doing choosing the people's candidates. I was really impressed. I was at that meeting with you.
When they do that, it shows that they support the taxpaying citizen. To me, if they support any of the establishment that's not out, they're not supporting the taxpayers.
Well, especially the ones that are voting, status quo, and they're really not justifying it to the people.
No.
Like if they still feel that that's in the best interest of their constituency, that's fair. But at least explain why you feel that way instead of, well, this is how we've always done it, which here again, that's another poor example for leadership. Mr. Jones, you went to the Mansfield ISD meeting. Now
No, I didn't go to
or who went
That
to
was Mr. Woods.
Mr. Woods went,
But
okay.
he reported back with me.
So what happened at Mans? Did their votes postponed? We're hoping that they get traction. How's that looking?
Well, they put it off, but Mr. Woods, he was on short notice. He was going to Mansfield as I was going to City of Cleburne. And when he found out when he got there that you have to sign up online the day before to speak. But they were nice. They got all of our stuff. And they said that we're the first people to talk to them because in the past, they've never heard from the chief appraiser or anybody. And they have a lot of votes.
Now, in Godly, the superintendent was driving those names. Is that how it works in Mansfield? You see the administration drives that train?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm assuming a city that's coming from the city manager, city administrator. But these the people we elect need to understand what they're doing. I mean, they're who is accountable to us.
But one I'm really upset with, I grew up in Cleburne. I went to school in Cleburne as well as Mr. Goulding. And we did get two of them nominated.
City or ISD?
Alvarez, Cleburne ISD.
ISD, okay.
ISD.
Because Cleburne City did
I
good.
know.
We'll get to them.
Yeah. And they, in the beginning, they nominated two of our people, I think, just to make us feel good. Well, when it came down to the vote, they didn't support one taxpaying citizen that was not part of the establishment.
I was a little disappointed with that because they've had some bonds fill in Cleburne before, and they kind of came around and tightened up some of their purse strings. And you know what? Shame on them, Cleburne ISD. And you've been around for 4.5 years now.
Yes.
I don't think you're going anywhere.
And I'm not going to forget that.
No, I don't. And I don't think you're going anywhere. Hopefully your template can be used in other counties. So Cleburne ISD, if you're elected there and you want to just go down that road, okay, but people will remember and you're accountable to somebody. And we'll see what happens come May when you're starting to look for new elected officials. So, but now the city of Cleburne,
fantastic.
Yeah, they did good. How'd that go down?
So Mayor Kane, and I have to say this, and I forgive him for it, but for a long time he wasn't with me. But about a year ago, he had called me up and he said, Craig, it's taken a while, but I realize what you're doing is correct. He's been behind us ever since. We went to Cleburne City Council. Now, one thing he did, and I backed him on it, but we have a person from Cleburne who is wonderful. His name is Vance Castles. He is this part of the establishment, but a good person. They gave him all of their votes. So Cleburne went ahead and gave him just a few extra to get him seated because he was going to be seated. And he gave the rest to Mr. Goulding. And they're wonderful. The whole council.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with them. I do some stuff with the railroaders and they're kind of intermingled and I'm really impressed with them.
The elected officials are all taxpayers and they want to serve the taxpayers. I don't think any of them feel differently than that. They just haven't had the opportunity like this in the past. And I think they're responding. Most of them are responding very well to the opportunity to be more sensitive to the taxpayers.
That's good to hear. Well, and so many people jump into politics and they don't understand that the inertia in politics is so slow moving that they're used to these instant results and they're not in here for the long game. And Mr. Hundley, you've been here, for 4.5 years, and you ain't going away.
I'm not going away.
Not going away.
But I am tired.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hear you. Well, hopefully this will get you some more. You got some more help getting elected, hopefully. So, Mr. Bailey.
Well, these guys are taking on a heck of a task if they pull this off. The state of Texas is growing exponentially. 1,500 people a day documented. That's documented that we know moving to the state of Texas and have been pre-COVID. This is going to be a huge challenge to get the information to make it transparent. Number one. For those of us that have sat on these courts and watched how this system has played out regarding comptroller versus CADs across the state, not just Johnson County. Just a few years ago, the state covered about 70% of schools as far as M&O. It's reversed now. The taxpayers are paying about 70-80% possibly. So to find that link there, I can just tell you, when you pass bonds that are building $60 million stadiums, the state of Texas is not going to send money for brick and mortar. The only thing that they're going to send money on, and the only way you're going to reverse any of that, is to get conservative leadership within all public schools, within all schools in general, especially if they get this voucher, because this voucher goes
That's scary.
Yeah, the voucher
Absolutely.
goes right down to the homeschoolers. I mean, where's the accountability? How are you going to be transparent when you send money to homeschoolers? So the state has its own issues and its own problems. The population growth that is here is so much. Johnson County 2020, the census showed 179,000. Okay, here we are approaching fast 24. We've got 205,000 people that we are getting the Council of Governments over in Arlington keeps a tally on what the numbers are reflecting in the North Central Texas area. Johnson County being part of that equation. That's just in that short period of time, and that's not going to stop. We're predicted to be 350,000 people by 2032. So the task that these guys are taking on. That just means more evaluations of more properties. You got property surge because you have so many people that are moving here and it's driving the market. You have, whether it be on comps or whether it be property that's been, they've aged out and they're frozen taxes, if you will. So much agriculture. There are still a lot of numbers that play into what these guys are going to have to learn how to do. I think they've got the gist of it. They want to get in here and make a difference, and they want to make it transparent to all of us taxpayers, because we all are taxpayers. Anyone that has a homestead might have gotten a break, but it is the state of Texas. They'll find a way next session to get it back. But I just I'm honored to be in the middle of this and just to see what can be produced out of it, because I won't say it's a secretive organization. I just say that there's just so many people to do it.
Yeah.
And if they've gotten in there and become complacent, or have the muffles on them to not really talk about anything, that's what this should bring out. And that's I think where this direction has been born of, is let's just expose it and for what it is, good, bad, or indifferent. We need people to tell us,
and it can't be any worse.
Yeah. Well, and just like our buddy that had 30% after he bought a house, if they could, very detailed orientedly explain that to him, and it made sense and it was transparent. I mean, maybe there's valid reasons for that. But just having it show up one day and there it is, that's tough.
He needs to talk to the appraiser. He might make some progress with that.
Yeah, he's trying. They keep telling him, well, you missed your chance to appeal. He's like, I didn't own the property. So yeah, he's going down that road.
The appraiser can change the appraisal. They don't have to go to
the chief
protest.
appraisal.
He has the power to do it.
Okay.
I built a home in Burleson, and when I got my first tax appraisal, it was exorbitantly high. I called the appraiser and talked to her, and we talked for probably a half hour. She finally figured out, and we figured out together, that they had the square footage of my home double.
Yeah, I remember that from last show. That's crazy.
So
That's crazy.
It's just a mistake.
Yeah.
That once she recognized, she fixed it.
Yeah. So all right, we're here. We got about 45 seconds left in the show. We want reach out to your school boards and cities. If they've already voted, thank them for if they voted for the people's candidates, and you know what, beat them up if they went status quo, because those status quo people, they're not out here talking to the people. They're not promising transparency. If you're Godly, Burleson ISD, Godly ISD, City of Godly voted for it. How'd Grandview vote, Craig?
100% for us.
ISD and the city?
Both sides.
100%. That's
yes.
good to hear.
Grandview ISD is phenomenal.
Awesome. So So, hey, thank you. We still need some votes. Mr. Hundley, thank you. Rick Bailey, thank you. Kayla Lain, thank you. Coming up, Troubled Waters and Godly. This ain't going away, and it's going to be a barn-burning shocker. So get ready for that. Thanks for the breakdown. We won't be here next week because Thanksgiving. We'll be back shortly after that. Take care.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godly, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors